USER and IMCOM's plan for quite some time. And we are still on schedule to do the renovation work to the warehouses to support that move. AFES should move as scheduled in 2014 to the Germersheim Army Depot. Question from Jacqueline Dixon off Facebook. The vacant homes on Grant Circle are becoming overrun with grass and weeds. Who's in charge of mowing these yards? Obviously, if you're still in the housing, then you're responsible for mowing. We do have a contract that mows those who are not, that are unoccupied. Hannelore, do you have anything additional on that subject? I mean, I know we have a schedule. I was out there myself last week.
Yes, we do have a schedule, so we will still mow until.
Okay. We will take a look at that. Yes. Sergeant Major and I will take a look at Grant Circle and see if there's some issue with the mowing contract. But I know we have that contract in place, and when I was out there not long ago, it was being mowed. Yeah. Question from Thomas Johnson, Facebook. When will the fitness center close on Ben Franklin Village in Mannheim? And I believe we put that up as 1 September 12, correct, Ingrid?
That's correct, sir. 1 September 12.
Okay. So 1 September 12, the fitness center there on Ben Franklin Village will close. That should be just about the right time, because with the school's last day on, I think, the 14th of June, we expect that everybody should then be able to PCS out of that housing within about a 2-month period. Obviously, we have other fitness centers at Coleman, and then here in Campbell Barracks and Patton Barracks that can be used by our families and service members and civilians. Another Facebook question from Lucy Johnson. How do civilian employees make appointments at medical facilities in Heidelberg? And are we still allowed to use space available slots? I will defer to Lieutenant Colonel Smith.
Thank you, sir. Civilians can call the central appointment line to make appointments, but in accordance with federal statute, they are subject to space available. And as we continue to draw down our services and our staffing, that space becomes tighter as our units continue to relocate and realign or get delayed in some cases. So that space is becoming tighter, but yes, they can call and make space available appointments. I would also say that there are other opportunities. Launchstool is looking forward to see what they can offer and provide as far as space available. Care is provided as well. So that's also an option for our space available patient population.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, or any questions from the audience, rather? Great, we have somebody who's brave. In fact, we've mentioned her before.
Yes, sir, ladies and gentlemen, I actually have 2 questions. Okay. One, can we get a copy of that schedule of the lawn maintenance for Grant Circle and Benjamin Franklin Village? There's the same problem near the old middle school and in some of the housing areas. Next question is, are there plans to activate a more robust shuttle system for our soldiers who will remain on Coleman for the next year or so without any facilities?
Well, okay, let me answer the first one first.
Okay.
I think we can provide that schedule, correct, Handler? Okay. So, I mean, we'll provide that to Sergeant First Class Hunt, the NCOIC out there, and he can distribute it to the folks in the neighborhood, and then we could also post it on a location where people can get it as well.
Yes, we will certainly do that. Yeah.
Okay. And that way you can see if something is not being maintained according to the contract, then please do notify DPW through their service order number that it's not happening as it's supposed to. On the second piece, I would say Coleman is not going to be without services. I mean, it's still going to have a postal center, and it'll still have some basic services to support the soldiers out there. However, there will be travel as we consolidate things to one location. Just as we travel to Spinelli to register vehicles, some folks who remain in Mannheim will travel here for the commissary, for a full main exchange and those types of things. I know we are looking at the possibility of resuming and having a more robust shuttle and come summer. Do you want to respond to that, Bruce?
Right now, the current shuttle schedule is still in effect, and we probably will relook at that come about 1 September, once most of the units have left Sullivan. Maybe that excess capacity could be diverted to Coleman and provide more robust service, but right now I can't tell you.
Okay, thank you. And is that posted somewhere online or?
No, we don't post the shuttle bus schedule online, but if you call 373-1800, they'll email you the schedule.
Okay, thank you.
That's good feedback, though. I don't see why we couldn't post that under our services directory as one of the things that's under there, the shuttle bus schedule and routes. So we'll take a look at if we can do that, if we can add that to that customer service directory. And I'd like to put a plug in for that customer service directory. We put a lot of work into building that site because we've had a lot of feedback, both in the community information survey that we did last September, as well as ICE comments and just verbal feedback from the community, that we have so many forms of media out there, the Herald Post, BW Now, these community town halls. There's so many forms of media. People get confused about where do I go to get the latest information on operating hours and what we have to offer for services in the community. So that is our one-stop, up-to-date location that you can go to, what they showed you before on the web page. The little binder with the telephone says Community Services Directory. That is our, if you want to call it version control, that is the most up-to-date with the most current information. If you go there, that will be the most up-to-date information we have. So I think that's something we need to look at for the shuttle bus hours and route. You know, it would be good for people to go to that and be able to see it. Because just as Bruce pointed out, as we reduce in number of installation sites, in some respects that helps us with things like the shuttle bus. Because today, as you saw up there, we have 21 different sites we're traveling between here in Mannheim and Heidelberg, and we have a limited number of bus drivers and buses. As we go down to fewer sites here over the next years, we get more turns between those sites, which should increase the frequency then for the soldiers traveling from Coleman here to PHV and to the community shopping center for services. But obviously, you know, we don't get there until we close some of these other places like Tompkins, Barracks and Schwetzigen, and Sullivan and Ben Franklin Village in Mannheim. Okay, I think last number I heard we're up to 85 people on Facebook monitoring. Okay. We have a question from Anya about if you have a bad experience with a rental property, and really this is either here or in a location that you're moving to. This lady has had a bad experience with the rental property, and so she wants to warn others to make them aware of it in case somebody else goes to go into that rental property after they leave. So she's asking basically, how do they do that? How do they warn others about either a landlord who is not meeting the terms of the lease, or there are just issues with the rental property? So I will turn that over to you, Ms. Thomas,
Yes.
for the answer.
Yes, we do have a program which is called a non-referral and a restrictive sanction list, better. And if you have a bad experience with a landlord, please contact our office. We need a statement from you in writing, and we research and check into that. And if the landlord, if it is justified, then we will add the landlord to the non-refer list. We have two different lists. The one is a non-refer list, and the other one is a restrictive sanction. The non-refer is for sharp business practices, and restrictive sanctions is a discrimination list. So please contact our office, and if we agree to that, then we will add Colonel DaCosta is the approving authority, then we will add the landlord to the non-refer list.
Okay, and I believe the process works the same in all the other Army garrisons
Yes,
across Europe.
And it's in the regulation AR 420-1, so you can read up on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Air Force also has a referral office
Yes.
that you can do the same.
Yeah, all services have that.
Right. So if you have an issue as you're moving to Wiesbaden, Kaiserslautern, or Schweinfurt, either contact that housing office at the servicing location, as Ms. Thomas had put up on her slide, or if all else fails, you can contact our housing office and we will refer you to the right housing office to resolve that. Because obviously we don't want others to have a bad experience when it can be prevented. Okay, questions from the audience?
Sir, Major Fair, 214th. Asking about sponsorship and EasyGate. The online sponsorship program doesn't exist as we understand.
I'm sorry, say again, please.
EasyGate sponsorship and the online sponsorship doesn't seem to exist anymore. We're asking about, particularly with the soldiers that are moving from this garrison up to Wiesbaden or other locations, all those orders have generated requirements for sponsorship, but they're an inter-theater sponsor activity. We need a couple hundred sponsors, but there's no easy way to make sponsors anymore without that online sponsorship. Is there a system that we'll be developing where we can either train ourselves or mass briefings so that we can facilitate that requirement?
Okay. Ivor, do you have an answer on that? I wasn't aware that they have stopped using the sponsor.
I know they're going through some changes with the USAG, that portal, as far as the sponsorship program. I don't know the specifics, but I can research and get you an answer, sir. But this is the first time I'm hearing about that particular issue. But we can talk offline or later, and,
Thanks, sir.
and see how we can resolve that.
Okay, that's a due out. We will research that, and we will get back to you and also post that answer on Facebook and as a frequently asked question in our next Herald Post. Because that's certainly one that I wasn't tracking, that they had stopped SponsorGate and in the EasyGate system. I would tell you that IMCOM Europe is putting a high-level focus on the sponsorship programs across the region. They're just in the beginning stages of looking at best practices and trying to standardize that across all the garrisons. So we should see further development on that as we go through that process. But obviously the need is more immediate for the units that are moving this summer. So we'll research that and get back to you in the community with an answer. Okay, any other questions from the audience? Okay. Question from Christy. off Facebook. With moving to Wiesbaden, can there be more info from Dodds about guaranteeing that our preschoolers will be able to get positions in the Sure Start program? I think that's probably an FMWR question. Do you know the answer to that, Ingrid, on how they get guaranteed that as they move to Wiesbaden, they're able to get into the Sure Start program?
I think the Sure Start program, is it not part of Dodds?
Is it by Dodds? Okay.
Yes, sir, it is a Dodds program.
Okay.
I'd like
Well-
to defer that question to the District Chief of Staff, Carol Kuzmic, who's right here in the audience.
Okay. Please come up.
As with registering a student in school, Sure Start, you have to fill out an application. There is no guarantee. It's not automatic acceptance. You fill out the paperwork, and if you meet the criteria for selection, then you are enrolled in the Sure Start program. So you could contact the school or the schools in the community where you're now located. You don't have to go to Wiesbaden. And we can forward those applications up to the Wiesbaden Elementary School.
Just a follow-on question for you, Carol. If they qualify down here, is it a pretty good assumption that they would also qualify at another school, or is there a resource issue with it as well?
There's a resource issue as well. The Sure Start selections are usually completed in August, and it's based on the number of applications and the criteria. And if there's additional space, we fill all the spaces based on how close they come to the guidance.
Okay. And I know Wiesbaden is sending representatives to our pre-registration.
Yeah.
So would this be a good time for them to come in and start with that application, or do they need to do it separately?
No, they would do that separately. They really should do it at the local school.
Okay.
Ask for the Sure Start application at the elementary school here, and then that can be forwarded up to Wiesbaden.
Okay. So something that needs to be done separate then from the pre-registration.
The Sure Start children are not enrolled in Dodds until they've been accepted.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Only two brave souls so far. Okay, we have a question from the Heidelberg Running Club asking if the Village Grill can be open for lunch since more families and organizations are moving to PHV. I'll let Ingrid answer that first, and then I may expound on that a little bit.
At this time, we have for lunch options, the Strike Zone snack bar at the bowling center, and we don't have any lunch options in the Village Grill. And just like with any organization, as we're transforming and going closer, getting closer and closer to closure, it's a staffing issue. So I honestly don't foresee us increasing our food options, other than, Java Cafe, sandwiches, small things like that, and the bowling center Strike Zone. At this, I can bring it back to our director, Barry Patrick, and we can look at it and discuss it with our business division chief, but we're faced with staff shortages just like anyone else.
Okay, thanks, Ingrid. The little bit I'll expound on it is we are moving families and some organizations into Patrick Henry Village, but I think at best it's going to be steady state population because, as I mentioned before, we're moving about 18 different organizations and units out of Heidelberg and Mannheim. And so as folks are moving out, we hope to about keep up with backfilling people into Patrick Henry Village with the folks that we bring over from Mannheim. but I certainly don't expect we will go above the level of people we have in Patrick Henry Village today with the number of people that are moving over from Mannheim. So there's not really going to be a net increase here in Patrick Henry Village of people. And I'd tell you, there our numbers at the Village Grill have not been as high as we would like them to be. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. One of the key messages I'd like everybody to understand is we need you to vote with your feet. Okay, and so the more you use a facility, the more you vote with your feet by getting out and going to that facility, the more we know that that is an area of demand and we can put our limited resources against it. We have not been getting the type of capacity people are putting that vote in for the Village Grill in the current hours that we have, which is somewhat of an indicator to us that people are using other options out there. If we really think there's a high demand for this, and the community wants this, we can certainly look at it, but we would need to see that type of demand with people using the facility more often, I think, to expand the hours of it. Okay, anyone else from the audience? Okay, Facebook. If someone has rented through a realtor, not the housing office, and they're having serious issues with the landlord, what can they do? Will the housing office still help with filing a complaint so future tenants don't suffer the same?
When you rented a unit with a realtor and you did not go through our office, we can check into that, but most likely we will refer you to legal and also to the Mieterverein. This is a tenants association. So this is a legal issue. If these are minor problems, we can check into that and maybe help you. But if it is some major issues, then yes, you need to go to legal or to the Mieterverein, to the tenants association.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. The other thing I would add is, remember, even if you go through housing and you go through our referral office, ultimately, when you sign a lease with a landlord, that is a contract between you and the landlord, not between the U.S. government and the landlord. So the housing office will help you wherever they can. If you need somebody to help you with the translation, with speaking German to the landlord, they have folks who can help you in the referral office do that. They can do certain things like that to help, but they're not lawyers, and ultimately if you have a complicated legal issue with the landlord, we're going to refer you to the legal office, and you're going to need that legal assistance to either recoup money or to sue the landlord for whatever the issue is. Like I said, we will help where we can, but what we can do is limited. Ultimately, that is a contract between you and the landlord. Anything else?
Yes. No, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. We have a Facebook question from Roger. With the dwindling number of dentists outlined by Lieutenant Colonel Chitness, is there a host nation option for community members to obtain dental care?
Yes, that is the TRICARE option that I was talking about. That is for family members. For active duty, you will go to the outlying dental clinic. So active duty cannot go to the host nation, but family members definitely, I in fact encourage you to seek TRICARE dental options.
Okay, thank you. Facebook question from Christy Watson. With clinics closing, we have been told that we can get reimbursed for travel to doctor's appointments that are very frequent in Landstuhl. Is this true? and who do we contact for that benefit? Colonel Smith, do you know anything reference that? If they have to travel to doctor's appointments, frequent appointments in Landstuhl, can they get reimbursed?
Depending on the distance that they travel, sir, there is a reimbursement option. I do not know the point of contact for that right now, other than the PAD office has some of that information. But I have Mr. Alfred in the back, and I can have him take down that question, and we can get that published on your website.
Okay, so that's another due out that we'll research and get an answer to the community on. Okay, questions from the audience or other Facebook questions? If you don't have more questions, you'll have to listen to me. Okay. Some of the key things that were talked about here, you know, we talked about vote with your feet and generating the demand signal. I'd also recommend to you, give us your feedback. This is one way of giving us your feedback. This is a great way. But also use our ICE system, our Interactive Customer Evaluation System. And you can see on our homepage right at the bottom, there's a link for all of our communities where you can go in and provide ICE comments on the services that are provided. And those go to the chiefs of those services to either make the service better if there was some issue with the service, or we also hope that you provide us that positive feedback, because we can take the positive feedback and do a couple things with it. First, we can take that best practice that one service provider is providing and translate it to using the same procedure somewhere else and improve other services. And then the second area is it helps us to reward employees who are just going out of their way and really providing service with a smile and providing that quality service that we want to be able to provide all the way through the final closure 2015. So it helps us recognize those employees. So please give us the positive as well as the negative feedback. And I'm sure when I do sit in the dunking booth, I'll get that negative feedback. Okay, on the exchange and some of the pieces that were briefed on the exchange, I know some of those slides seem to go by pretty fast, and we're going back and forth. The key dates on there for Ben Franklin Village is all of the main exchange services that are provided on the Columbus Street side of Ben Franklin Village. So where the main exchange is, where the gas station is, the concessionaires, the food court, that closure in Mannheim is scheduled for 15 June of this year. We looked at that with our AAFES partners, and based again on when school ends and on the workforce that they have available and how long it takes them to clear those facilities, we determined that that was the best time to end those services there. As a result of that, though, we did ask the exchange, and they agreed to provide greater inventory at the shopette that's there on Sullivan Barracks, you know, specifically oriented on families that are getting ready to PCS. What are the types of items that they will be interested in, that they will need? And we also specifically took a look at ensuring that the hours they will be open on the days that the commissary is closed in Mannheim, so that there will be that option when the commissary is closed that you can go to the shopette there in Ben Franklin Village. So there are services still there up until 31 August, which again is our target date to have all the families moved out of there so we can close at the end of September. The other alternative, again, is you travel to another facility. Either Coleman Barracks, or you travel here to the community shopping center if you're looking for a full service exchange once that exchange there in Mannheim closes. Okay, any questions from the audience or Facebook? Okay, the follow-on on the question about the yards on BFV that are not maintained is just clarifying that they are the vacant yards. So again, Sergeant Major and I will take a look at that. We will go out and put eyes on. And as we talked about, we will look at the contract and post it. And if there's an issue with the maintenance of it, we will get after it. So thanks for that feedback. Okay, any other questions from the audience or Facebook? Okay. Well, I know AFN gave us a full 2 hours, but it would appear that we're reaching culmination here. So, I would like to thank all of our panel members, if we could give them a round of applause. It's not always easy being up there in front of the lights, especially when the slides don't seem to be flipping at the right pace. So again, thanks for coming in and providing what you provide. Again, as we get ready to close and we go to the raffles, we have some raffles for folks. So all of those of you out in the virtual world understand that you can't virtually win a raffle at least in our community town hall. So we like to see your bright shining faces too, so that you can win some of the raffle prizes. But before we draw for the raffle as we finish, again, just a key couple closing points. We understand that there's a lot of churn and anxiety that goes with the transformation. And so our commitment to you, again, is that we're going to do our best to balance good stewardship with quality service right up to the end. We want the community to understand there are limitations in the resources we receive as a closing community. And those limitations of resources go greater and greater as we get fewer facilities, as we close more and we get closer to the end. But that doesn't mean that's an excuse for us to not still look at ways of doing business better and using the resources we have better. And so that's why we continue to look at those things. That's why we do things like the postal consolidation that we are doing. You know, it's a better use of resources, and it ensures that we get the quality postal service to our community right up to the end. If we waited on something like that, we would either not have the employees or the money to execute it when we needed to. So that's our commitment to you. We understand that that does cause change. Change is uncomfortable. But we are doing the change for the best reasons, the best use of our resources. Okay? Give us the feedback. Absolutely. We want to hear it. And just as you heard, you know, a couple do-outs here, we don't have all the answers right at our fingertips, but we will get them for you and get that information out to the community. And then vote with your feet. You know, I can't stress that enough. We really can tailor those resources and tailor how we consolidate best if you generate the right demand on the things that are important to you. So I know it's difficult for people when we close something or we consolidate something that you used often. But it's generally either because you're one of the few people still using it, unfortunately, the demand just isn't there, or we just don't have the workforce anymore to do it. And much of our workforce comes from the family members. So as the units move and you know, the organizations move, that impacts our workforce as well. Okay, but we are committed to providing you that quality service as we look at how to best use the limited resources. So let's go ahead and do the raffle on the prizes that we have here.
This has been the U.S. Army Garrison Baden-Württemberg Transformation Town Hall Meeting, presented by AFN Europe.
Okay. I guess I will pick the first number here.